It is Saturday, March 28th. This is video 8 in my series that I'm doing about the Gerhardt Konig trial that's taking place in Hawaii. She allegedly tried to beat his wife to death with a rock on a hiking trail. There you go, you're all caught up. Yesterday in court, now, by the way, it's in Hawaii and I'm Eastern time. So the times are really weird if you're trying to tune in to live coverage of the trial, but Court TV does have the trial if you want to go watch it every day. I, in the evenings, tune in and I get snippets. And so let me tell you what I watched yesterday. I got through this witness. Her name is Michelle Amorin. I'm sorry, I'm referring to notes. That's why I'm looking away. Her name is Michelle Amorin. She works for the Honolulu Police Department and she does all of the DNA portions of the investigation, right? And first, I gotta hand it to this prosecutor. This prosecutor is nailing it. And the reason why is because I watch trials all the time. So I'm like, I know what DNA is, skip to the end. But he's assuming that the jury does not know what DNA does, how rare it is to find a DNA match, how, like, the measurements that the process that they go through. So he puts Michelle up on the stand and he says to her, okay, let's walk through this. They walk through all the definition of DNA. They walk through all of the methods for extraction. They walk through all the quantification. And then they walk through how you would type somebody for DNA to discover whose DNA it is, right? The typing process. Now, after all of that, that was like an hour, but she showed all of her credentials. Yeah, she's very well qualified to be testifying in court. She is an expert. She tested the DNA on the rock and was able to say it's one person's blood and that person was female, okay? Now, the only question the defense asked on cross-examination was, did you swab any other areas of the rock, right? Did you swab any other areas where the blood wasn't? I think what they're gonna say is, how do you know who was holding the rock? Now, I'm not on the jury, but I would find it a far stretch to believe a woman would hit herself in the face or put her face like this on the ground against a rock to frame her husband. But maybe that's what they're going to try and say, because they didn't swab the rest of the rock to see if there was another person's DNA, like touch DNA, on the other parts of the rock that didn't contain the blood. The next witness is a detective, and I'm only partially through his testimony, but this one's going to be good because there was a search warrant to go through Dr. Konig's laptop. And this is the guy that did the work. And it starts off, again, I had to shut it off, but he starts off by, again, going through that process. He has a search warrant. The search warrant is for limited dates. So he goes through and he filters by just this date and he extracts all the data from the laptop just for that. And he's using a software called Axiom. So this is what's enabling him to do this. He pulls it out. He pulls out between these dates. The dates they used were December 1st of 2024 to March 24th of 2025, which is when the alleged attack took place. He filters by date. Then he has in the search warrant, there are keywords. So here's what we're looking for. We're looking for these words that would have been used, email or online searching or those kinds of things. So he has keywords. So then he puts in the keywords and then Axiom software says, okay, here's all the items you need to look at. That's as far as I got. It's total cliffhanger, I know, but I'm going to come back and finish his testimony. I'll probably come back tonight with another video just to fill in some of these holes. One thing that's important to know, so many of you have asked, like, is the doctor going to take the stand? Now, right now, yes, they're saying he's going to take the stand and they're saying they're going to put on a very vigorous defense. But that is what they've also said in the last 3 trials that I've watched, and that didn't pan out that way. It is rare that a defendant takes the stand themselves. Their attorneys usually advise them against it. However, and I'm going to say this, and I do not mean all doctors, and I do not mean all men, so don't get all ruffled in the comments. But this man is an anesthesiologist, and he already seems like he's a little bit power hungry just by how Ariel describes how he sort of controlled the situation. He was in charge of everything in the household. My guess is that his ego's too fucking big to let his defense attorney speak for him. He's gonna wanna get up on the stand because he's sure, very much like Corey Richens was, if you just hear my side of the story, you'll believe me. And so I don't doubt that he very much wants to take the stand. Now, yesterday, before the jury came in, they always settle some other issues. And the defense attorney had said they may need to call a rebuttal witness based on what the prosecution is going to ask Dr. Konig if he takes the stand. So here's the situation. If Dr. Konig takes the stand, the prosecution is going to ask him about the money, right? I spoke earlier about how Ariel went into their joint accounts. All their accounts were joint accounts. She went into one of their joint accounts right after the attack. I think it was like 3 days after he'd been arrested. She went in and she took, it's 123, I think I said 121, it's 123,000 out of that account and moved it to a checking account in just her name so that she could use it to pay the bills. They have 2 young kids at home. They live in Hawaii. Their mortgage is $8,000 a month. She doesn't make enough money to cover the bills and keep the kids fed. So she moved some of their money out of their joint account that was used to pay bills and moved it into her own account so she could continue paying bills. Well, what happened is the brother, so he has a brother, and the brother, I don't know if the brother is power of attorney. I don't know if the brother has line of sight to stuff or if the brother just suspected there might be some sort of fraud. And there's a move made almost right away to freeze all of his accounts, which would have froze Ariel out of the accounts. She was smart to go in and move that money when she did to be able to take care of their family because he froze her out of everything. And I don't know if it's the brother that had authority to do it or if the brother just talked to Gerhardt, but the brother is a witness. If the prosecution gets Dr. Konig on the stand and starts talking about these financial matters and why would you do that? Why would you freeze the accounts? Then the brother has to come in and testify in his defense. The reason I'm bringing all this up is the brother, again, this is Hawaii. There's multiple islands. It's not easy well, I shouldn't say it's not easy. It takes planning to get from one island to another. You got to fly, you got to do these things. So they're saying like the brother can't just walk in here on a moment notice. We need the brother to have advance notice. So if the prosecution plans this line of questioning, the defense needs to know so they can prepare their witness. And the prosecution's like, we don't know what way it's going to go because we don't know what he's going to say on the stand. So we can't say right now whether or not you need that witness. The defense said, can he just zoom in? If that's the case, if we need to call him as a rebuttal witness, can he zoom in? And the court's like, of course he can. So that's what'll happen. As of yesterday morning, it looks like they plan to put Gerhardt Konig on the stand. I think the prosecution is smart not to show their cards. We learned in Corey Richins that the defense often goes, we're going to call this witness, this witness, this witness, this witness, and the defendant themselves is going to get up on the stand. So the prosecution spends so much time investigating these witnesses and trying to come up with ways to nullify their testimony instead of focusing on the prosecution. And then when it comes to defense, they go, defense rests without calling anybody. It's a really, really good strategy, but I don't think this prosecutor's falling for it. I think he's like, call whoever you got to call, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to ask. Brilliant. But the brother will zoom in if he's called as a rebuttal witness. I will be back later, either tonight or tomorrow morning with much more stuff because I got a lot of testimony to watch.